office essentials and stationery, and of course we're thanking them for bringing us Say It Right. Now, saying it right doesn't come by chance. You need to read and read the right books early in life, and that is why Kingdom Books, your number one stop for books and stationery with over 40 years experience, is offering great discounts on readers and other learning materials to help your kids say it right. Now, these readers and books and learning materials include phonics flashcards, Aesop's Fables, Oliver Twist, The Fish That Talked, Emperor and the Nightingale, Growing Up for Girls, illustrated classics, junior illustrated grammar, punctuation, and so much more. So go to any of their branches and get a good discount on your purchase. If you want to know more about Kingdom Books and Stationery, call 050 140 1050, or you could try 0244 311 955. All right, you know what it means when you hear this tune. It means it's time for us to get started with the news review. And, it's the first working day of the year, so we've only got a few of the newspapers publishing, right? But I believe we've got a few of the newspapers publishing. Which ones do we have today?
Yes, Kojo. So we have the Daily Guide, the Daily Graphic, and the Finder this morning. Let me just quickly do the headlines on the front page of the Daily Guide. So Mahama in court seeks election rerun. The Supreme Court hears Amewu injunction case today. NPP chases NDC MP-elect over dual citizenship. And Baumia in Kumasi Church watch night. Those are the headlines on the front page of the Daily Guide.
Before we go on to the next paper, Benedicta, over the weekend, there was this video that was circulating. City FM's Umaru Sanda filmed some police officers searching his car. And during that process, we saw a few things happening that were not very palatable. We saw a police officer lunging at him, attempting to assault him, and there was some exchanges and things were said. The process itself also seemed, quite, vigorous, shall we say. Mm-hmm. We're going to get some education on what we saw, and whether any of it was illegal or, unlawful in any manner. And that's why Benedicta is here with us. But we've got Umaru Sanda himself joining us over the telephone right now. So he could give us a bit of background to what we saw in the video. Umaru, good morning.
Good morning, Kojo.
It's a pleasure to speak to you. A pity about the circumstances. But you've had a rather traumatic experience with the police.
Indeed. Let me say a good morning to you, Kojo, and the team, as well as all listeners of the Super Morning Show. I didn't set out to begin January or 2021 on that note, but it did. Some people decided that that's how it should be. It was just a regular morning. I was going to work. I woke up, was driving to work. Then when I got to the roundabout around the Ghanaian Times area before you get to Circle, I noticed that there was a white police pickup in the roundabout, and because they have the right of way, I paused for them to pass, and then I drove after them. A few seconds later, they flagged me down, and I parked. They showed up and said, "Hey, we are here to search your car for weapons and drugs." And so, that's the beginning. And I said, "Yeah, it's fine, you can do that, but you only do that on condition that I'm filming." And they said they were not going to allow that, but they would allow me to watch the search process. Now, prior to this, I had heard reports that police people supposedly plant stuff in your car and turn around to accuse you. So having that in mind, I said I would want to observe not just with my eyes, but with also my camera. Now, they insisted that I use my eyes to observe. And I said to them, well, I could actually see you plant something with my eyes, but I can't prove it. But if I'm filming, my lens may see what my eyes may not. And I could get the privilege to play back or opportunity to playing back and seeing what you actually did when you claimed you did what you did. And so we had a back and forth, and eventually they agreed. Their team leader agreed that, okay, feel free, you film, well, I will also film. And I said, fine, I don't mind being filmed at all. feel free, you can film. So we started the process. It was very smooth. He detailed one of his men to do the search while he gave instructions from the back, and I was filming. And I insisted that he should do the filming in a manner that I would be able to see everything he was doing. So if he's at the passenger side, I ought to be at the driver's side. And if he is at the driver's side, I ought to be at the passenger side. So it would make filming easy for me. And so that became a bit of a standoff because they said to me that, hey, they don't have all day for me. I said, but if you're searching me, you have to have time and also give me the opportunity to see what you want to see. And Kojo, they did the most thorough search I've ever been subjected to. I mean, my glove compartments were open. Even I don't know if it's sun shield that is called in the car, that was open. My tissue box was searched. He inserted his fingers and, just ran around inside my tissue box, 2 tissue boxes. I had smokes in the car like you saw in the video. He took it and was even like, shaking it off as though a parcel of cocaine was going to fall off or something. I found that very bizarre, but hey, that's the job of the police. I was just watching them do that. And it got bizarre and bizarre. Eventually, they were lifting carpets in my car. It was almost like he was certain that there was something that he had to find, so he was looking for it. But I knew I had nothing in the car that was suspicious or wrong. So I didn't have a problem. So I just had to be sure I was filming everything with the mindset that they would not drop anything in my car. That was my fear, my concern, and that's what I was working hard to prevent. Then they said they wanted to go into the car booth, and I said, that's fine, that's regular. But when it became more absurd was when he asked for me to open the car bonnet. Like, this is an engine that has been running, and you know how hot that place can be. I wonder how a parcel of cocaine or a canister can survive that heat in a bonnet. But I still obliged and opened it. Then he said I should remove my shoes. I removed the shoes, and he said I should remove the lining in the shoe. And I said, man, if I do that, I may have to go to a shoemaker to fix it back. And, for some reason, he allowed for it to go. Then he asked for my license. And funny, my license was almost like the last thing they checked. And I gave it to him. He looked at it and said, well, your license is not expired. And he gave it back to me. They didn't at any point ask me what my name was. And I also didn't offer my name. They didn't introduce themselves to me. And I also didn't ask. But their vehicle had the inscription SWAT written on it. So I assumed they are from the Special Weapon and Tactical Unit as the SWAT of the police. And I had no problem.
Right.
While this was happening, there was a police visibility park that was parked under that interchange. Nobody from there said anything. But again, let me also say that these police that accosted me were not at a checkpoint. They were driving. They were in motion when they just flagged me down. And I stopped and I subjected myself.
Okay.
And so, Kojo, these are the initial things. And of course, there was attempted assault and assault, but these are the initial things.
Right. Now, you were outnumbered by these police officers, quite a lot of them.
There were 4.
Yeah, and we noticed that the person who was referred to as the driver, he seemed quite upset with you. What was the problem there?
So what I have figured out later is that guy who is a driver is also the leader of the team. And from what I have picked, and I cannot confirm this, but from what I've picked from insiders, his name, his rank is inspector, but his name, which was printed on his shirt, is Richard Dare. Now, he was supposed to be the leader of the team. Indeed, he's the guy I negotiated with to do the filming. And if you look at the beginning of the filming, he was holding his phone aloft and was filming as well. What pissed him off? He said, why was I filming his face? And I said, well, this is a search being conducted by a team, and I cannot just film people's hands digging or plowing through my stuff. I should show the face of the person doing that. And mind you, I wasn't recording this live on any platform. It was a recording that was to be saved to my phone device and to be used later should there be need for it. It wasn't as if I was Facebook Live or doing Instagram Live or any of those things. I wasn't doing that. I was just recording. But this guy got upset and started using abusive language on me, and some of them you could hear in there. And I said to him, and he kept instructing me to turn my camera into the car, and I said, "You can't really teach me camera skills, you know. I at least I may have learned one or two things in camera skills. You know, that upsetted him that I was actually responding. Usually he would want me to play dumb and just listen to him, but I wasn't the type of person who, I mean, I talk for a living, because I'm not sure I would be gagged by a policeman when I have not insulted him. I am purely saying what I have to say in the circumstances. So he got very upset, started abusing me. Then eventually he rushed and hit my hand because he said he was not happy that I was filming them. So he hit my hand and my phone fell and my screen cracked. So he picked the phone, went to his car angrily, sat down and put the phone on his seat. By that time, the recording has stopped, so you may not see all of this in the recording. I went to his car and insisted, maybe negotiated would be the right word, that give me back my phone, because if you don't give me the phone, there cannot be filming. And if there's no filming, I will not let you continue with the search. I insisted that if they want to search without me filming, they should arrest me formally, take me to the police station with my car, then they can lock me up and I would have the key to my car. At the right time, when a court or any appropriate authority determines that my car should be searched, I was willing to allow that search to happen. But I would not let them search on my blind side, and I said that to them. So he realized I would not budge and give him back my phone. And that was again after his friends begged or spoke for me. Then we went back and continued the search and the filming. Then he got angry again and made a dash for me. And his guys had to, restrain him, because he would have landed a blow on my face or something. So the assault is in twofold. He verbally assaulted me, and he physically assaulted me. He hit my hand. I don't know where he was targeting, but his strike landed on my hand, and my phone fell, and he picked that phone. And he seized the phone twice, actually. And I insisted that, no, you have to give me back my phone for that work to continue. So that is what you saw, Kojo, in the video, and that's what actually transpired 2 days ago when I was going to work.
Now, you didn't tell them your name, but did they know you were a journalist from the beginning?
My car is not a branded company car, but I had a sticker on my windscreen that read City 97.3 FM and City FM and Press. So any police officer who stops to you, the first thing they do is to look at the windscreen, check your insurance and your roadworthiness, and that tag is beneath these stickers. And I believe they would have seen that, because indeed they kept saying foolish journalists, which means they have assumed and concluded that I was a journalist. Again, when they were going through the rubble, and Kojo, I must say that they dug up stuff I may not have seen since 3 years ago when I got this car. And when they pulled all these, which would include possibly ID cards, press tags and so on, they would have clearly seen my name in there. So that gave them the information that I was a journalist. That's if they already didn't know before they stopped me.
Well, you say they referred to you as foolish journalists, so I'm assuming they knew.
Definitely they did. And they started saying stuff like, responsible journalists like Bernard Avle will not do what you are doing. And so, which is an irony, because I work for Bernard Avle and work with Bernard Avle.
Interesting.
But they somehow didn't know this or pretended not to know this. But I wasn't in the business of telling them that, hey, I was a journalist, so let me go. No, I wasn't interested in doing that. And since they haven't asked me, eventually then he said, where do you work? I said, if you don't know where I work, you can figure that out later. I'm not sure it's consequential to this stage.
Okay. So
that's what.
Yeah. Thanks for that. Thanks for recounting it. Now, I've got to say, I'm curious about what must have been going through your mind while all of this was happening. At the beginning, I asked, I said that there were 4 of them. You were outnumbered, but you were very lippy, responding to everything they were saying. What was it that made you decide on that approach, if you will?
Well, Kojo, like I told you, we are journalists, and questioning authority is default for us. We are not the type of professionals who would play dumb and just swallow everything that is thrown at us by police officers. The fact that someone is in a uniform doesn't mean they are not a human being. They are a human being, and I have every right to question them if I need to question them, especially when I was a subject of their interrogation. At least I should ask a question or two. And I would not keep quiet, especially when he was saying stuff. What I was very sure not to do was not to insult or abuse them in any way. And that's what I tried to do.
Yeah. Now,
and there was something, though, that happened. When they were doing the search, I noticed that all of them, 4 of them, did not have nose masks. And again, per the law, it's the police who are supposed to enforce this nose mask law. And for the same police who are to enforce the nose mask law not to be wearing nose masks, I found that a bit curious. So I said to them, gentlemen, do you notice that you are not wearing nose masks? And that angered them the more. And I'm sure you would have heard what he said. I don't know if I can repeat that on the morning show.
I'd rather you didn't.
I'm not going to do that. Yes.
But he did accuse you of not wearing a nose mask either.
Yes. I was driving alone in my car with my windows raised up. I needn't wear a mask. And when they stopped me, it was abrupt. I had my mask in the car, and if you look at the video, you would see my mask hanging in my car. So I just stepped down to just regular respond to your question and proceed. But it was then I noticed that, no, these 4 people are a crowd, and they were sitting in a car, and they didn't have a mask on. And that's what forced me to remind them that they weren't wearing a mask. So that is how come I drew attention to that simple fact. Almost conversationally, though, but that pissed them off the more.
Now, the one who we saw in the video, sort of, attempting to attack you and being restrained by his colleagues, he said that if you have a problem with what they're doing, you can go to the moon. Have you done anything about this incident? Have you reported it?
Because I wasn't an astronaut, but I will go to the court. And yes, I have started that process. Yesterday, I reported to the Adabraka police station, which has jurisdiction over Circle and all of those areas. I have filed a formal complaint against Inspector Richard Dare and his 3 colleagues, and I have made a case of assault against my person by these people. I have not reported them for searching me. I have no problem with them searching me. But I reported that I was assaulted, and I wanted the police to deal with that. And secondly, I would be petitioning the police PIPS department and the Inspector General of Police. And I would also petition the National Media Commission, because if they hadn't known I was a journalist, then I would say I was assaulted as a private person. But the moment he started insulting my profession and saying that what you guys are doing, journalists, when criminals come to attack you, you see what will happen to you, that I realized that I needed to rope in my profession as well in there. And that's why I'll be involving the National Media Commission in this. And then I would possibly be considering a civil suit because, Kojo, it was a very traumatic experience, I must say to you. I pretended to be a hard guy, but I wasn't really hard, Kojo, because anything could have happened. And I dread what would have happened if this was in the night or somewhere secluded and not in the center of town.
Umaru, we're going to follow every step of this. We're very interested in how all of this unfolds. But even in the immediacy of your video, there are lessons for us. And so we're going to have a bit of a discussion on the show about it. We would love for you to listen in if you can, because we'll get some education from lawyers about everything that transpired in the video, including even your decisions, your choices, your words, your actions. We'll use this as an opportunity to educate the public, because it could happen to anyone, and we'll do some analysis, figure out what was right, what could have been better, what the police did right, what they didn't do right, and all of that. So please, if you have the opportunity to tune in, we would appreciate it.
I definitely will. I really appreciate you for the time. Let me say that I did this not because I was too known, because people usually would say, Jen, I did that because I'm a member of the public. I deserve to be respected by a policeman who wants to search me. And I have been searched 1,001 times if I've been searched once by the police. I am not pretending to be above being searched. I just thought that it should be done through a proper way. And if what you saw in that video looked proper to you, well, then it's entirely up to you. For me, it didn't. And that actually should be a lesson for us all, that this perhaps is what happens to motorists who use our roads every day. But of course, they didn't have the privilege of using a camera. I had that opportunity. I negotiated. I was granted, and I did, and I don't regret it.
Umaru, we appreciate your time very much. Thank you so much. And listen, keep us in the loop. We want to know how this unfolds, okay?
Thank you.
Thank you. That was Umaru Sanda. He works for City FM, and he filmed some police officers searching his car. It turned into a rather eventful search, and it's given us an opportunity to learn a few things about what's right in these circumstances and what isn't. I'm going to get views from Enimwa and Winston really quickly before Benedicta gives us some education on, what this all means legally. First, though, the online review is brought to us every morning by Zenith Bank in your best interest and Goyle Good Energy. Goyle, of course, continues to spread good cheer even after Christmas by giving you good energy, allowing you the convenience of using your GH Link card to pay for fuel and lubricants in their over 400 stations across Ghana. So you can see everything you spend on your monthly statement. So go cashless and protect yourself and stick to all the COVID-19 protocols in these times. Goyle, good energy. Goyle, Yenara, Yenze. And Zenith Bank, of course, wishes all of us, including you, their valued customers, a happy and prosperous new year. Thank you for your patronage, that's what they say, and your support throughout 2020. They want to reassure you of their continued commitment to strengthen the bond they share with you. Thank you once again for giving them an opportunity to serve you. Happy New Year, Zenith Bank, in your best interest. Now, you can get 50 gigabytes of data for free when you buy a Surfline device at any of the Surfline shops or retail outlets today. Surfline, of course, is Ghana's premier 4G LTE network, and they put the whole world in your hands. That means you can do all your virtual team meetings, schoolwork, and streaming, and so forth with 50 gigabytes of free data. All right, so whoever it is you want to talk to or interact with or share with, Ghana's only true 4G network has got you covered with this 50 gigabyte offer. Walk into any of their shops or retail outlets in Accra, Tema, and Takrady to buy a device and redeem 50 gig of internet instantly for free. Surfline, it's about time. So, Wheezy, Churchill.
Well, I like the fact that Umaru Sanda admits that he can be searched, but of course his concerns are with the manner in which he was searched. And I'm at sea why, a policeman would verbally assault and try to physically assault a journalist, all in the name of searching that person. And the concern also is when you say, you people, if you behave like this and criminals attack you, you would see. It's more like having a score to settle with somebody. And that's what surprises me, because over the past week while off, I've seen a lot of policemen, some of whom have told me we have these concerns. You had the Interior Minister trying to address concerns about their payments. And many of the policemen I met at police checkpoints were telling me that, do you know that we have still not been paid? Do you know we have still not been paid? When you go, talk about these things for us. So these are even policemen who acknowledge that we are all partners. Because when they have concerns, they would come to us. I am happy that he's going to be lodging, reported the case, he's going to be lodging complaints with the National Media Commission. And this whole attitude of sometimes certain, policemen thinking that they could stop you and assault you just by virtue of your profession or by the virtue of the fact that you may have said something that they do not like. And as I say this, I'm also mindful of the fact that not all police persons. Look, the last time I was driving and they asked for my insurance. And I said, I have insurance, but it's not fixed on the car. The policeman said, okay, so the National Insurance Commission has come up with this code. So he just typed in the vehicle's number and he says, okay, go. Because I have verified. Some would have said, which they will be right though, the law says put it on the right side of your windscreen. So why haven't you done that? I'm just talking about policemen who sometimes, go just beyond the black and white letter of the law to be very reasonable with persons.
Yeah.
And I'm surprised that in this case, you attempt to assault a person by virtue of his profession. Whatever a journalist does that you're not happy with, you have channels to go through. Okay? Those channels do not include stopping him, verbally assaulting him, and attempting to physically assault him. I'm happy that a report will be made, a complaint will be made, and possibly going to court. At least we'll get to the bottom of it.
Yeah. I agree with Winston. Kojo, this year, last year, all over the world, the police suddenly developed a certain bad reputation, especially with what happened in the US, with the way that people feel when they're stopped by police. Fortunately for us here in Ghana, for a majority of us, that hasn't been the case. You're not fearful when you're stopped by the police. Your greatest concern most of the time is, do I have enough on me, to pave my way, if we're going to be totally honest in how our dealings with the police have been. But for me, it is a fear. If things like this begin to happen, and when you are stopped by police, the people who are supposed to represent safety suddenly represent, animosity, or suddenly they represent figures that could threaten you and put you in spaces where you're uncomfortable. So I think that it has to be nipped in the bud. Yes, we have to understand the police have the right, and with reasonable cause, to stop you, to search you, and all of that. I believe in respect. I believe in clear communication. I think that if these things are adhered to, and like Winston said, we go through the right channels to address our grievances, then we can continue to have a good relationship with the police, which is important for national security. So these are my thoughts on that. So I'm happy with how Umaru is going to be handling it.
Yeah.
We support him. He's our brother in this profession, and I think if you come at one of us, you come at all of us. So we support him, and we hope that due process is done and everything.
Now, sorry, Winston.
Could you just chip this in? Because, and talking about the police, look, after the elections, when all these things were happening, I got police officers calling and saying, come over. Even before a complaint was lodged at the CID. They called us, they called me, for instance, spoke to me, asked me everything that may have happened, because they've had people saying all manner of things. They said, okay, you know what? This is how we advise you go about things. And so when you have some of these, policemen doing things which would undo all the good that the police have been doing around this time. And I say this because, look, I've been advised by lots of police officers what you should do, what you shouldn't do, and I'm happy that, okay, so these persons listen to the news, and they follow some of the threats you go through. But when the police themselves
are the threats,
come on, that's bad.
All right. I think we need some education, okay? And I know we've all got lots of questions, and no doubt Benedicta herself has sort of seen this video and, has already scoped out the areas she feels we must be educated on. But I am curious about one thing. When we just spoke to Umaru, he said that he negotiated with the police for them to let him film the search. I'm curious about this because this could happen to anyone. Anyone could be stopped by the police and searched. If you want to film that process, do you need the police's permission, or do you have the right to film it?
I think we can start with discussing the issue about stop and searches generally. Initially, when the video came out, I heard a number of people saying that the police had no right to stop and search people randomly, and they should have some warrant. But I think that if you look at the law, and backed by the standard operation procedure of the Ghana Police Service itself, a police officer has the right, or the police service has the right, to stop and search persons.
With reasonable cause.
With reasonable cause and without warrant.
Yes.
And I would just briefly read the law for listeners to get a sense of what it says. It says that a police officer may search without a warrant if he has reasonable cause to believe that a person has concealed on himself or is conveying an article which has been stolen or unlawfully obtained. B, an article in respect of which an offense, a criminal offense has been or is being or about to be committed. It also goes ahead to say that a police officer not below the rank of Assistant Superintendent of Police or who is below the rank has been authorized in writing by an officer of the said rank may enter a house, shop, warehouse, yard, boat, vessel, or other premises which the police officer has reasonable cause to believe contains property which has been stolen or obtained by unlawful means.
Right.
And so when you look at the video, the officer says, yes, we are stopping you to search for narcotics or ammunition. And this is to suggest that, yes, they probably had reasonable cause, because the standard for reasonable cause is quite subjective in this regard. And so
I was going to ask, what is reasonable cause?
exactly. So if the police service has a tip-off that somebody might be harboring something, or let's say somebody in their car has ammunition, they have every right to engage that person and conduct a search without a warrant. I think that what we are witnessing is not necessarily that whether or not the police had the right to do that. We've established that the police can actually search without a warrant.
Yeah.
The question then is, how is the police supposed to conduct its duties? What we've seen from the video, and Umaru saying that he had to negotiate his way, looking at that video, what I saw was a citizen that did not trust the police service. And if you look at comments that you hear people make about the video, this is not a one-off experience. This is an experience that many Ghanaians have had to go through.
Yeah.
And so, yes, people are asking why Umaru is making a big deal of it. But I think it is well within his right, and it is hard time we actually bring these issues to the fore for us as a nation to begin to consider what the police service is supposed to be doing. We know that PIPS, the Police Intelligence and Professional Standards Bureau, is actually the unit of the police service that is supposed to ensure that the police conduct their work professionally, having respect for the dignity of persons, and basically adhering to the laws that they are supposed to be enforcing. So where you have the police service now taking some form of an arbitrary stance when it comes to the interpretation of laws or how they should conduct themselves as law enforcement officers, we begin to raise the question whether the police recognizes that they are not supposed to be hostile towards the citizens. They are supposed to be law enforcement authorities, and within their work lies their responsibility to respect the dignity of persons. So they are supposed to conduct themselves within a certain threshold, that which has been specified in the law and also within their code of conduct. Now, there has been some previous instances where conduct of the police service or some personnel of the police service have been questioned. I must agree with Winston when he says that a number of police officers have actually been of really very good behavior. What we've also seen is that there are a number of police officers that have actually let us down. They've let the society down, they've let the country down. And to think that it's taxpayers' money that is being used to basically pay for what they are supposed to do and to serve the nation, they are not supposed to take that sort of posturing. Now, the other issue we need to look at is the whole process of who becomes a police officer. If we are talking about professional standards, then we also have to look at the training. We know that, yes, police officers go through rigorous trainings to get to to pass their exams to be made police officers. But let's ask ourselves, within that training, where lies the accountability? Because we do not, for the most part, we do not see the police service actually hold their own accountable. And many a times, these issues come up, we talk about it a day or two, and then we go back to our normal lives. But these are lived experiences of many Ghanaians, which must begin to engage us as media, as a citizenry.
Help me with this filming thing. I mean, is there a clear answer to that question, whether a citizen has the right to film the police while they are searching his vehicle?
Yes, he has the right to film.
Okay.
And I think that the police must also understand that it is the right of citizens to ensure that the law is enforced, and so that when they want to enforce the law and the citizen has a cause to doubt the intent of the police officer, that citizen has it within his rights to actually film the process. Because as Umaru said, he needed that evidence to prove his case, because he was outnumbered clearly, and he needed something that he could go to an authority to say that, yes, I was searched, but I think that the way the police conducted themselves was unprofessional, or I was assaulted. He needed that as a buffer.
And we saw in the video how everything happened.
Yeah.
There was what looked like an attempt to assault Mr. Sanda by the person identified as a driver.
Yes.
Would that be criminal?
Well, so we had some verbal attacks, and I think that Mr. Sanda has the rights, as he has done, to report the issue to PIPS, which is the internal mechanism set up by the police to actually investigate some of these things. He also has the right to go to court to have his rights enforced. And so I think he has taken the right steps. But what we have to ask ourselves is whether, for most Ghanaians out there, whether they can have such avenues, even if they have, whether they have the means to be able to articulate or bring their issues to the fore when they encounter some of these conducts of the police service.
Yeah. Well, I think we've established a few things. Thank you so much. First of all, there is nothing unlawful about the police stopping and searching your vehicle,
not at
even
all.
if they don't have a warrant. I've been stopped several times by the police. And each time, actually, in my case, each time they explained to me what their reasonable cause was.
Yeah.
I remember once I was stopped and the officer said they have received information that a vehicle matching my car's description had gone through a police checkpoint nearby without stopping when the driver was asked to stop. So they wanted to, search my vehicle. So I let them. So sometimes they will explain it to you. But is that something that is a requirement? Must they explain what their reasonable cause is to you? Or can they just go ahead and search, and then maybe if there is a court case later, then they will explain their reasonable cause?
Well, they are not required to state what the reasonable cause is, but they are supposed to tell you that they are stopping you to search you for so and so reasons. And I think that what we are discussing today, as I said earlier on, has to do not just with the entire police service. We know, and we've experienced brilliant police officers undertaking their duties and actually helping citizens understand the law. What we need to see is the top brass of the police service cracking the whip on officers who actually conduct themselves in a way that is unbefitting of police officers.
Benedicta Lassie is the Executive Director at the Center for African Legal Studies at UPSA. We benefited greatly from your insights this morning. Thank you so much for making the time. There's more to talk about on the Super Morning Show. Professor Stephen Ade is our guest later on, but between now and then, there's still a lot to discuss. Are you ready to send your kids back to school? Well, We are back in school, aren't we, Winston and Enimwa? So we'll be talking about that with you in a short while. First, though, a big thank you to Fidelity Bank, Believe With Us. Normally, they would have brought you the BBC News. And in fact, they will bring you the BBC News tomorrow. A message from them and others.
Hey, Baba, Charlie, I want a haircut. Quick, I have somewhere to be before noon.
Charlie, why in so much hurry? It's a woman, huh?
I want to use the bank in the city to get some money out.
All the way in the city. But Charlie, you know say I be FBN Bank Ghana